तो स्नापटा नेबा से व्हाट्सएप टा नहीं खुला के आगो तो खुलुसला web dot whatsapp.com हम पर पॉलिसी नहीं हवा तो web.whatsapp.com खुलुसे नहीं आसवा हैं ना आसे हो Dear students, please write your name and enrollment number in the chat box. we will wait up to 2:10, and then exactly at 2:10 we will start. Good afternoon, dear students. You are all welcome to the second session of BES-124, which is organized by IGNOU Regional Center Bhubaneswar.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm very happy that quite a good number of learners have participated, have joined in this online classroom. And our esteemed counselor, Dr. Gangadhar Das, is very much online. So let us welcome him also. Dr. Das, you are welcome to this online classroom.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. And I hope that today our discussion will be more fruitful with the active participation and support of the students. Today we shall be dealing with the same language across the curriculum. And please, please mute your speaker. All the students are requested to please mute your speaker so that you can listen to us clearly. So today there will be presentation on listening, teaching listening across the curriculum, then developing speaking ability. That means listening, speaking, reading, writing, and assessing. Isn't it? These four important aspects. These four important aspects will be not four, five important aspects will be dealt with by Professor Gangadhar Das. How listening is important, then speaking, how speaking occupies a prominent place there in our teaching learning environment, then reading comprehension, writing across the curriculum, and assessment, language, assessing language across the curriculum. All these things will be clearly discussed by Dr. Gangadhar Das. So please listen to me carefully, don't interrupt in between. And towards the end, you can ask your question or you can write your question in the chat box and we will take up those questions one after another. So Dr. Das, if you are online, please start your presentation without wasting any further time. Please start your presentation.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Dear listeners, my learners, congratulations to you all. Yesterday we have discussed regarding language across the curriculum. 4 units we have covered: language and society, learning and language, understanding language across the curriculum, and classroom as a space for discourse. Here we have understood that language is very much essential, and it is the responsibility, duty of the teacher, each and every teacher, of every subject, each subject like history, political science, or geography, science, general science, or any other subject. So also the language subjects. equally to see the development of a language in the classroom. So let us resume our discussion, today's discussion, and that is block 2. Block 2 has more one unit, that is five units, teaching listening across the curriculum, developing the speaking abilities, reading comprehension, writing across the curriculum, and assessing across the curriculum. Here we see that when we enter the school, first of all, what happens? A long bell rings. After lockdown period, you will see that school is open. The students, the learners, they are very much eager to come to the school. First of all, a long bell will ring, and the students will be gathered in the general assembly. That may be prayer class. So here, first they will listen, then they will return to their classroom, or in the prayer class also, that is school assembly. Some teachers are assigned a job of discussing on some matter for 5 minutes. In our IGNU courses also, we have that subject, that assignment, school-based activity, that we have to provide the learners some knowledge in the prayer class. Here we see that first the learner listens, then he speaks. Even some students, they are assigned the job of discussing something, or putting forth some discussion in the prayer class about news or like that. So we see that listening, then first of all the learner listens, then comes the listener. The listener comes to speak something. Then in the classroom, the learner sees that the teacher writes something on the blackboard. The student, the learner, write down whatever is written on the blackboard, and then when the teacher is writing, the student is also noting down in his running note. So we see that there are 4 activities required, essential for our learning and teaching: listening, then speaking, then reading, then writing. Today's discussion is on how we can develop these 4 activities. These are interrelated to each other. No single activity is more important, or some activities less important. We cannot say. All the activities, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, are important. But one thing we should understand, that the student, the learner, must have good knowledge, sound knowledge in the academic language, so that he can express his views, he can develop his personality, he can fetch good marks in the examination, he can elaborate whatever he is thinking rightly. So our concern is language across the curriculum. We have to teach language while teaching any subject in the classroom. Here, first of all, let us discuss regarding teaching listening across the curriculum. How listening, the activity of listening is important, and how the teacher can develop this listening activity among the learners, each and every learner. That is here the point of discussion. We see that students, the learners, they are important before the teacher, and listening to the teacher, whatever is discussed is important. If the student fails to listen properly, the student cannot develop his language, or the student cannot perform well in the classroom. Here, listening is very much important from the childhood. That may be early childhood or in the later childhood. We will see that the learner is at home and develops his listening capacity, then comes to the school. There we have to develop his listening abilities. Here we see that the learner learns language in two processes: decoding process, that is bottom-up process. That may be decoding process is the process of translating the sounds, acoustic input, that is input that the listener receives into standard forms of language, words, phrases, or sentences, using clues like pronunciations or inflection. Hence, a piece of speech is reset into larger units of language, that is bottom-up processing. Here, there is another thing that we can see, that the decoding process takes place at phonetic level, syllable level, or word level, or syntax level, or intonation level. Here, there are some sub-skills also. We have to cover 6 units. So just I am touching all the points. Wherever there may be in doubt, at last we can discuss in detail. Soft skills exercise in decoding process are perception skills, where the individual, the learner, the student inside a classroom recognizes sounds, discriminates between sounds, identifies the reduced forms in connected or fast speech, identifies stressed syllables, like that. Then language skills identify individual words and groups. The learner also identifies discourse markers which organize what is being said. For example, I was saying, as a matter of fact, to start with, these are the a part of sentences. The learner develops his understanding. Then top-down processing. In order to understand the import of an utterance, a listener does not need the decoding process alone, although these seem to dominate in the early stages. That means decoding process is top-up process is in the decoding process is taken up in the early stages of life, but later on the learner develops himself and takes up a top-down process. He relates his previous knowledge and knowledge of the speaker, and he proceeds on. Then come to what is schema. Schema means an outline of a plan or theory. This theory describes that it is of the notion of it becomes essential to trigger the learner's background knowledge and utilize the knowledge to fully comprehend the listening test. Inside also our classroom, first of all, we provide the previous knowledge test questions. Whatever method we may follow, whether it is traditional method or 5E method, we have to first of all test the previous knowledge of the learner. There in the workshop we shall come to discussion about that. Listening across the curriculum. There are different goals of listening across the curriculum. How the students are helped by the help of developing listening activities. They develop their fluency, they develop their accuracy in speech, word by word, and there are different kinds of listening. Here we see that maybe the kinds are passive or marginal listening. The listener may be passive, where the listener has no much interest in listening. But inside the classroom, here in real life situations, we see that we may be passive listeners. We can take, for example, what is going on now. We are not passive listeners, we are active listeners. We are listening to whatever we are talking to you, whatever the director is sitting in the head office of IGNOU at Bhubaneswar. He is delivering some ideas. He is in giving some input to you at the beginning and at the end. So you see, you are not passive listeners now. You are active listeners. Oh, so we should see that our students should be active listeners. They should pay very close attention to whatever we are saying in the classroom. So the students should be given experiment work or tasks so that they can be able to be active listeners. There is another kind of listeners, that is responsive listeners. That means reciprocal listening. There are different criteria for responsive listening: participating, have a conversation, and a discussion. We can take the example of our online class, where we both participate in this program. We have a conversation. You ask questions where there is doubt, and we have a discussion that is going on for 2 hours. So we see that the teacher must provide a situation to discuss after they have had a story, read a page, or like that, or read a page of in a newspaper, so that the students will be compelled to be active or to respond to the teacher after properly receiving or listening whatever is told to him. So there are 3 types of listeners: passive, active, and responsive listeners. Listening for specific information. Also, there are listeners who have to get specific listening. They look for certain piece of information. For example, there is a routine program when the school opens. Suppose the student is observing the newspaper or going through the television. Here, interest is on specific information in the media. So also in the classroom, when a teacher develops this specific skill of listening for specific information, the teacher provides. Then appreciating listening. Here, this is a pleasurable activity, appreciating listening. Suppose the teacher is singing a song in the classroom, or the teacher is providing some co-curricular activity like music chair or like that. The student is not so formal here as in the classroom. The teacher provides some pleasurable activities so that this learner is appreciating and listening at the same time. Then creative listening. Creative listening means here this listener, the learner here we can say, that or the student listens to develop his creative activity in drawing or painting or writing something creative writing. He listens very creatively to the thoughts or original situation of the problems presented before him or narrated before him. Analytical or critical listening. This is a higher order of listening. Here the listener critically analyzes whatever is listened by him from the teacher, from the media like television or like that. This is what we call critical listening. Then listening for gist. The summary, or while teaching history or general science, at the end the teacher describes the gist or summary, or writes down the summary on the blackboard. That listening, first the teacher speaks, speaks, and the learner listens very wholeheartedly to know the gist. Then he may write down on the blackboard. Then we will discuss regarding what happens in writing the gist. Listening for details. The understanding of the learner is important. The student is understanding details in the lecture or a passage. For example, student need to listen carefully to the process of conducting experiments in a laboratory. So listening in detail, unless the learner listens in detail, he cannot perform certain activities in the classroom. Particularly in laboratory, sequential orders are being done. All activities are to be done in a sequential orders. The teacher may not repeat. Once he gives some ideas, the learner listens very carefully and acts accordingly. So here we see that accordingly, this teacher should see how these activities are properly managed by each and every teacher in every school subject, so that the learners, they can develop their listening activity. Here we can see that the teacher must be clearly audible to the learners. Even some of the backbenchers, they complain that the teacher is not audible. If the teacher is not audible, then it becomes very difficult for the learners to develop their language abilities. So here we should see that learners should be given importance. Their listening capacities should be developed. Here we can one thing we can discuss, that if you ask where the problem they find, naturally they may say that their listening is the only problem in the school. They can write, they can read, but the teacher may not be audible to them at times. That should be given importance. Then what are the strategies of listening? There are different strategies for listening. Yesterday we have discussed regarding brainstorming. The regional director had clearly discussed on brainstorming. This is one of the activity for the listeners. How can it be done? We can call out related words or phrases to be put on blackboard or overhead projector, like that. And there are different activities and described here in your sim. Mind mapping, and then discussion, games, guide questions, picture or diagram, then predictions, elimination, scheming. And we have a complete discussion on scanning and scheming. Scheming, here it is mentioned that read a related short text for gist. Then these activities may be organized by the student. Here in your book, different subjects like language subjects, geographical discussions, discussion in history, like that, a number of activities are mentioned. Here what the teachers, so also the parents, at home, the parents have a responsibility for the development, not only the teacher, the parents also see that these tasks are given to the students to listen to a radio or a TV. Nowadays, radio is perhaps outdated, but we all have a TV and a smartphone in each and every home. So the students should be given these activities to listen to the radio or TV discussion on a topic of their choice and summarize it in their own words. Here we can discuss that IGNOU has a number of channels that we have discussed in our last classes. There are 4 channels of IGNOU. So also there are channels of Gyan Darshan. There are so many channels. and in our smart phone we can also see those channels. So for learning purpose, we can guide the learner, the student. At home we can guide our children to listen to the programs attentively. We should provide them this facility. Listen to lectures on your subject on YouTube, or write the gist. Listen to a riddle or a joke related to a subject given taught at a school. Listen to news in the classroom and discuss the main points with the students. The classroom activities may include listening to newspapers read by a student. These activities generally goes on in a school, and we should see that these activities are organized in schools so that the students they can develop these activities. So this is all regarding our listening activities. Here we can summarize with this that listening is an important activity, and the teachers should see that they are clear, their voice should be clear, they should be audible to the learners. If there is any difficulty of the student, the teacher should see that each and every student listens properly, so that accordingly the teacher can organize the class, and the teacher should see that when he is teaching in a large class, he should use microphones or move from place to place, so that the students they may not be neglected so far as listening is concerned. So also at home we should see that we should organize activities for children, particularly in the early ages. We the elder persons at home should describe, should tell stories, should sing songs, and provide smartphones to the children to listen to stories. In other classes, school going children, the students, we should guide the children. We should not neglect in our guidance. We should see that they listen to their topics, their subjects through smartphones or TVs. There are a lot of discussions for every group of learners in our TV channels. We should take the opportunity for the learners. We should see that particularly the teachers, they should guide their parents also, the parents of the learners in this regard. And then come to our sixth unit, developing the speaking abilities. First of all, we see that the learner has developed this listening ability. Then the learner develops his speaking ability. The teacher should see that the learner speaks clearly, so that the learner can develop his speaking abilities. Without developing speaking abilities, the learner cannot develop his personality. We have to, in the social situation, in each and every situation, we have to express our ideas properly, with proper wordings, with proper sentences. So in the school, it is the responsibility of the teachers to develop his speaking abilities. So there is a relationship, there is a link between oral language, listening, and speaking. So also writing. All these four skills are interrelated. We can see that the child can communicate fairly with the language, with the ability of speaking. So the students should be given the opportunity to speak and to learn and develop his learning to speak. let us see what is the oral and the relationship between oral language and reading and writing. We see that in oral language we may be informal, but while we think of speaking, we must be formal in the classroom, maybe informally at our home with our friends or like that. But in schools, we develop our formalities, we develop academic learning with the language development. There's the difference between speaking and writing. The major difference in speech and writing is that speakers do not usually speak complete sentences. For instance, speech consists of units of ideas, but in phrases like that. But in writing, we have to complete the sentence. What are the features of a spoken discourse? It is composed of short phrases and clauses. It may be planned for a lecture or unplanned for a general conversation, has generic words as compared to written language. It involves reciprocity, shows variation, may be formal or casual. But there is a difference between spoken and written language. The learner should be much formal while speaking languages. Let us see how to develop speaking abilities across the curriculum. Speaking activities in the classroom can be organized with the following considerations. The teacher should see that he should use a wide range of core speaking skills, develop fluency in expression of meaning, use grammatical or grammar flexibly to produce a wide range of utterances that can express meaning precisely, employ appropriate oral communication and discourse strategies, manage and self-regulate their own speaking development. Then let us see what are the activities for developing speaking skills. First of all, the teacher should select a text, picture books, poetry, non-fiction, text, magazine, newspaper, or like that, advertisements, graphic novels, photo essays, film clips, blogs, and so on. First of all, maybe visual or any other sort of visual visual text like a video or any other activity. The teacher should select the test. Then inform the information gap tasks. The students become more accurate, that is to help them to express themselves appropriately. The situation should be given to express their ideas appropriately. Then discussion is an approach. The teachers can model appropriate discussion skills to enable students to consider the ideas presented in their text. Where here we see that teachers have the responsibility, they have duty to provide learners the opportunity while discussing in the classroom. What happens in our general classroom, at times we just go on run to finish the course and don't allow the student to ask any question or even to discuss with the student. So here one thing the teacher should see, whether it is science or mathematics or general English class or any other class or language class, the teacher should develop the ability of discussing in the minds of the learners. There are structured argument and debate in different activities, the teacher should provide these opportunities to the learners. So here we can sum up that speaking is an important activity. The teacher has the responsibility to provide the opportunities to develop the speaking abilities of the learners, so that this learner, the student, can develop his writing abilities. In the classroom, the students should be encouraged to speak correctly, and there are some techniques in the early stages. The teacher should take care of his speaking ability. If somewhere the learner is wrong, the teachers should not be angry with the learner. He should be sympathetic. He should encourage. He should have affection to the learner in the beginning stages. He should develop the attitude of the learners. He should change the attitude of the learner to speak it clearly in the classroom. In other words, we can say that each and every learner should be encouraged to express their ideas in the classroom. Even if the teacher may call some students at a times while discussion is going on to come in front of the classroom and speak before the students about ideas, about the summary, or like that. This should go on side by side. And there are different activities when we teach any subject in the classroom. So far as method is concerned, in teaching a language subject, we have loud reading, we have expressing our question and answers in some stages, and at last the teacher is asking some summative questions in the application stage or evaluation stage. That is last stage of the class. The teacher is asking some questions and the students, they answer, and their correct answer is solicited. So the teacher here should see that each and every learner is given the task of speaking in the classroom, so that classroom activities can be lively and the students can feel proud of the class, that they are able to speak, develop their speaking abilities in the classroom by speaking correctly. So there are different activities to be organized by the teacher one side and by the student also. These activities should be taken care of. We should see that the students should take interest of speaking when debate is organized. There is another activity we have already discussed, that in a classroom situation, the student is asked to speak something in any step, suppose summary, or at last some questions to be answered, or recapitulated questions are being asked to the learner in each and every step. Even in the beginning step, we ask some questions, previous test, to test the previous knowledge of the learner. We ask some questions to the learners, and some of the students, they are asked to stand up and speak something on the questions asked. So here we see that in each and every situation, the student should be encouraged to answer the questions, or in other words, he should be encouraged to speak in the class. And in the beginning of the school program, in the school assembly also, one student is every day, one student is given some task of speaking something, and in our IGNU B.Ed program also we are giving one assignment, school-based activity, to deliver 5 speeches at a different time. We should see that they should learn how to speak, and we should train them how to speak correctly, and how to develop their the language by developing speaking abilities, so that they can develop their idea and content areas or in different academic subjects. Let us come to the next unit, that is unit 7, reading comprehension. So, so far we have discussed listening skill and speaking skill. Now we see that reading is another comprehension. Reading is another skill. The reading comprehension we should develop in the minds of the learners. Each and every learner should be given the opportunity to develop his reading skill in the school. School is the platform where we can see we are trained persons. We have a knowledge how to develop the reading skill, and we should take care of that. We should see that no single student is neglected in this aspect. So far as the reading skill is concerned. In classroom situation, we see that while teaching language subjects, there is a question of loud reading by the learner and silent reading by the learner. In other subjects also, whatever is written in the blackboard, written on the blackboard, the student is asked to describe. So we ask a student to stand up and say what is written in the blackboard, or we say what is read loudly, what is the question in the book at page dash, like that. So the thing is that there are different opportunities to be provided to the learner to develop his reading abilities, reading skill. Here we have to discuss a lot of things to develop the reading comprehension of the learner. So we see that here reader is important. The listener becomes a reader. Then at last we shall discuss about writing. So unless the student develops his reading ability, he cannot develop his language. So we should see that the student becomes a good reader. We should provide, the teacher should provide good text. Every piece of writing is unique in terms of its genre, vocabulary, language style, difficulty level, and thematic content. So here we see that the discussion is on reading comprehension. Comprehension means understanding. While reading, the student can understand. So here reading is important to comprehend, to have comprehension, to have a better understanding. So in each and every subject, first of all, we should see that the reader, the learner reads carefully and understands the subject matter. So first of all, we see that there are texts. The learners should be provided text for reading transaction. Then in the socio-cultural context, reading does not occur in a vacuum. In the social context also, we read different specific occasions. So here reading also takes place. In social occasions, what happens? We see, suppose we are watching a TV program, there are some scrolls on the TV. So we have that ability to read correctly. there are different situations. We have to go through the newspaper, not for the whole day, for within some hours we have to complete the newspaper reading. Reading is an interactive process. That means already we have discussed it is a top-down or and a top-up process to develop reading activities. So here we should see that there are different characteristics of reading. What are the characteristics? Let us see. Reading is purposeful. Without any purpose, we never read. So, for instance, we can give an example. Now there are different scenes sent to you by mails. That is soft copy. You have to read that because there is a class now or tomorrow. So you find out the soft copy of the scene, self-instructional material, or collect a hard book from anybody and go on reading, because it is purposeful. Your purpose is that you have to attend the class, ask questions wherever there is a doubt. So it will help you to collect some ideas and do better in your profession, pass B.Ed and have dignity in the society. So without purpose, reading, there is no question of reading. Reading is purposeful. Reading is selective. We select what to read. There are a lot of things to be read, but we select whatever is necessary for us. Reading speed varies. Here our discussion, in our discussion we can say that we should take care of our children, our students in this regard. Reading speed varies. There is a speed of reading. There at times we are very slow when we are we have to detect something in the classroom, and we are in some novels, or there are short stories to be told to the students. There we are very speedy. So it is the speed in classroom situation. So also outside the classroom, while organizing co-curricular activities, we can see. Suppose in the playground, in the cricket field, what the teacher does, the referee speaks loudly and speedily, gives information very speedily. So we see that the speed varies, but in the classroom situation we are very formal, and we see that each and every learner is able to listen to us. Reading is silent. We can read silently. The textbooks, newspapers, whatever declared in the notice board, the learner reads silently and grasps whatever is written there. Reading is text-based. Reading is text-based, means the text, whatever is written, we have to go minutely. There are textbooks, prescribed books for the learners, and in addition to that, the student may follow some reference books. Reading involves complex cognitive skills. There are different faculties: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Here, all the activities, all the faculties are to be developed by the teacher by organizing different activities. But here, so far as knowledge is concerned, so far as textbooks are concerned, so far giving different ideas, providing knowledge to the students is concerned, reading involves complex cognitive skills. Effective reading involves chunking of information that the well-developed schema makes possible. Here we see that different types of informations are given to the learner, and one learning helps other type of learning, and that means each and every span of learning, sort of learning is interrelated. In one word, we can say that previous knowledge supports to develop the knowledge of the learner. reading is based on comprehension. Unless the learner develops his comprehension ability, unless we provide the understanding, proper understanding, we should provide best understanding to the learner. Reading is based on comprehension. Unless this learner understands, the whole program is fruitless. We should see that the learner reads well and comprehends well whatever is written and whatever is discussed here in our textbooks. Then come to feature. What are the features that make text complex? Quantitative features, quantitative features, then the reader and the text beyond the textbook, select a text for reading. There are different questions here that the teacher may ask to develop these activities. Then teaching students to read across the curriculum. Pre-reading, how one can be an active reader or a passive reader. Here examples are given, what was being done previously and what is done today. We should follow these steps, these activities to develop the active, to make the learners active listeners and active readers. What is the function of a test? The text informs, entertains, and persuades. There are different types of functions, but certainly we can say that the text informs the learner, new information is given to the learner, then entertains by gaining knowledge. The classroom activities, there are co-curricular activities also where we can develop the entertainment capacity of the learner. Here we can say that in the text also there are discussions to entertain the learner by developing his learning abilities. Then persuade, there is another activity that is persuasion. Here we should see that the child is persuaded to argue or influence the reader accept his or her point. In a debate, what happens? The learner persuades by speaking. So also in case of reading tests, we see that in the text there are some test materials that persuades the learner to go through those tests. Then we can see that the teacher should advise the learner, give instruction to the learner, to entertain the learner, give information to the learner. These can develop his reading text activities. Here one thing we may see that nowadays generally what happens, even in English medium schools and government schools, we are teachers of different government schools in Odisha, particularly our mass education department. We see that our students, they first of all purchase key books or guide books. Then they may be provided with this is the function of their parents. What happens? They neglect their text reading and they solely depend on their coaching, tuition, so also their key book or guide book reading. This is not helpful to develop their language activities. So here we should advise them, we should warn them give them proper information, and see that text must be entertaining, so that they should be involved in these reading materials. Then come to scanning and skimming. Now, what is scanning and skimming? There are new terms, scanning and skimming. Scanning, you see, we all know, all the teachers we know, through our mobile, our smartphone, what we do, or if you get a document, suppose we get some questions. Somebody was asking yesterday, what is the what are the assignment question, like that. If you see somebody is having a hard copy of assignments, okay, well, please give me, we say, and we just scan the copy and we circulate the copy ourselves. We scan our certificates, we scan the document. If any book we find with any of our friends hard copy, then we scan through our mobile. But here scanning and skipping are reading techniques. This is different. Scanning enables a person to look up a specific information from a text from any source: document, maps, books, poems, newspapers, pamphlets, posters. That means in Odia you can say सूक्ष्म रूपे देखिबा, to see minutely. That means read minutely is called as scanning, minutely reading. But skimming means allow the person to quickly read through something to get the basic idea. That means just to get the basic idea. Suppose we are going to the newspaper, we skim, we just have skimming. But when we are going to prepare for our examination, for our term end examination, or when we are submitting our assignment papers, we scan properly and then close it for sending. For preparing for the examination or term end examination, we have scanning while reading the SIM and other materials. This is scanning and skimming. Then come to see how to develop critical reading skills. Critical reading skills does not necessarily mean being critical of what you read, but critical reading means engaging in what you read by asking yourself questions such as what is the author trying to say, or what is the main argument being presented. That means developing critical reading skills, we should see that critical reading skills should be given importance, particularly in the later childhood. Then onwards, we should take much care of the learners. We should see that the students develop self-reading. Self-reading should be developed. There, critical reading should be developed. Critical reading means the learner should try to see the main argument of the topic presented, what the author wants to describe, what is the purpose of the author there in the text. Non-critical and critical reading. What is the difference between critical and non-critical? The purpose of a critical reading is not to find fault, but to evaluate the reading on the basis of strength of the evidence or argument that is presented. It is about questioning, analyzing, and putting things in a context. Critical reading is active, analytic in the reading of text, but in non-critical reading, it is passive, passive reading of the text. So here we see that in critical reading, the learner tries to gain the main idea provided by the author. Then summarizing. summarizing is a quick understanding. At last, in the classroom also, we summarize. Likewise, the learner should be provided the opportunity to read the summary of the papers given in each and every subject. What is the summary? The student learner should distinguish between the main or key ideas and the supporting ideas in the test. Evaluating an argument. What is given in the text, the learner should develop to evaluate the main argument in the text. So the learner should not have a haphazard reading. He should read minutely and perform these activities. Then drawing inferences means drawing conclusions. This is a higher order of thinking. The learner should draw conclusions, inferences by reading the text, whatever is provided to him. Then come to see teaching vocabulary. Vocabulary can be developed by the teacher in the classroom, in the language classroom, so also in other subjects. Here we see that science subjects includes some different vocabulary, so also like photosynthesis, like that. History, we find that there are different vocabularies. So also in other subjects there are different vocabularies. Here there is a list of vocabularies in which subject what may be the vocabulary for the learner. The students should be provided the opportunity to develop this vocabulary in the classroom. Then come to discuss regarding Venn diagram. Venn diagram is the diagram consisting of interlocking circles for giving different ideas. The student should be given the opportunity to develop his speaking capacity, reading capacity, listening capacity. Here, Venn diagram is given to the learner. The teacher should understand what is a Venn diagram. Then he can make the learner understand how to compare two activities or more than two activities in the and place it in the Venn diagram. We see that suppose we can take one example. Now we are 56 learners attending this program. Some learners out of 56, suppose 35 learners have both a computer and both smartphone, and the rest they have only smartphone. We can have a we can have a Venn diagram that where both the circles merge. The interlocking circle depicts that these learners, they have both smartphones and laptops, and the rest they have only smartphones. Like that, in the classroom situation, we can prepare a Venn diagram. The students are having abilities, different sorts of abilities. Suppose some students are doing well in mathematics and some students are doing in English. Some students they are not able to have a better ability in both mathematics and English. We can have a Venn diagram and describe the interlocking circle where we can see that these students, they are not doing well in both mathematics and English. So for 2 or 3 ideas, we can prepare this model. So the students should develop these abilities and these ideas from the text, and they should be asked to complete the Venn diagram. So here the students can develop these ideas to prepare a Venn diagram and read out what is the meaning of that Venn diagram. KWL chart. What is K means what the student knows about the topic. W means what the student wants to know, and L means what the student has learned after reading the lesson or topic. That means in a classroom, we are having a purpose of reading and building motivation to read, organize the information learned while reading. Here we see that what the student knows about the topic, what the student wants to know, and what is what the student has learned after reading the topic. This strategy requires students to build on past knowledge, and that is previous knowledge, and useful in making connections. So in KWL chart, we can have ideas on geography, history, biology, all these subjects in which topics of study, there are different topics of study. This has been described in our book with clear examples. Then come to reading visuals. Reading visuals. What happens in a classroom? We suppose we are giving the ideas in a classroom, not only from the text. We show some teaching materials, also show some teaching aids to provide teaching materials to the learners. Suppose I am teaching geography, so I have to use a map in the classroom or a globe in the classroom. Here, while using a map, I can call a student, you come to the map, come here, please tell me where is Delhi, locate Delhi on the map. Or I may say, you may locate Bhubaneswar in the map. Another person, another student may be called to show some place on the map. This is called map reading, so that the learners, they can read the map and they can have a better understanding, and they can participate in the reading program, and they can read the visuals. This is one example. Here we see that there are different maps, Venn charts, diagrams are shown on our media after it is 4-5, so also in the evening, both on national channels and local channels. So we see that now we see that corona is a major problem throughout the world. So it is depicted by the media very clearly, and within a short span of time, we get the idea by reading these maps. That is telecast And that is what we see from telecast. So also in the classroom, we develop reading abilities by showing different visuals. In teaching history, in teaching science, nowadays we see that ICT is being used. So it is very much easy for the teachers to show different types of pictures, maps, objects, cartoons, etc. To the students through computer. Even in rural areas, we can have the use of smartphones for the children for this purpose. Then reading discipline-based text. There are different disciplines like science, arts, all like that. So in so here we can see that while teaching history, while teaching mathematics, while teaching science, geography, all these subjects, we can see that different vocabulary, question of a different vocabulary is there. There are specific terms in each and every subject. We should see that the teachers provide the opportunity for the learners to understand the terms used there in the subject, so that they can have better understanding of the subjects, which may lead to better understanding of the topic. Without assessing the meaning of the term, without understanding the term in different subjects, the student can't perform well. So it is the teacher who should see language development by teaching these students, particularly in developing reading abilities of different words, features in teaching different topics. Then come to the 8th unit, writing across the curriculum. Till now, we have discussed regarding listening, then after listening, and then speaking, then reading, at last writing. But one thing we should have in our mind, that all the 4 skills are interrelated, and they are very much interrelated. No single skill may be neglected. Writing across the curriculum. Here we can say that writing is the main factor. Whatever written, we cannot erase it. Whatever is spoken by the teacher or the student, we may forget. But whatever written on the blackboard by the teacher, first of all, I can say that as teachers, we can say that whatever we write on the blackboard, that must be correct, and that must not be misleading. The students, they have a much faith on the teachers themselves. Even they have much faith on teachers than their books, textbooks. So teachers should write correctly and legibly and with attractive handwriting. So writing must be clear. Where there is facility of using overhead projector or computers, or there is a possibility or a facility of using a smart class, that is different. There the teacher can write more correctly. So the thing that the point of discussion is that how we can develop our students writing abilities through our curriculum. Before that, we have discussed the teacher should be perfect in his writing, and the teacher should be a model so that the students can follow the teacher. But there are here we have to discuss regarding different types of writing, the different forms of writing, and discipline-based writing, and there are different strategies to develop writing abilities of the learners, our students. One thing we should see that speech is different from writing. So far as speaker, gesture, posture, body movement, facial expression, pitch and tone of voice, stress and hesitations, everything the students can mark. In a classroom, the teacher speaks something, the students speak something. Here we see that body language is important. Mode of expression is a language, informal learning also we can see that. So also in informal ways. At home, when we speak, we are more informal. Their body language, everything is different. But at a school, we should see that speaking is quite different from writing. Writing does not include all these gesture, posture, facial expression of the learner. But what it includes, it includes maybe ambiguity of meaning. It should be the degree of accuracy should be clear. There should be no ambiguity of meaning. The ideas should be described properly with the grammatical devices, and the focus or emphasis must be on the topic what the writer wants to describe. Then let us see what is the relationship between writing and thinking. What the it is the learner we give importance. The learner must have we should develop the writing abilities and thinking abilities of the learner. Both are closely connected. What the learner thinks, how the learner thinks is connected to his writing. So writing precedes thinking. So thinking process should be given importance. Thought process should be given importance. Writing as a tool for a learning context. So the context should be clear. The learner should know and he should be provided with the facilities connected between new information and learned information and among areas of knowledge across multiple domains. Then we should see there are some purposes of writing as discussed here in our sim. What is the purpose of this piece of writing? Writing is a process. It includes pre-writing, writing, and rewriting and editing. Before the learner, the student writes something, he may pre-write, then correct it, and rewrite it or edit it, and produce the final piece of writing. We can take one example here. Here we see that while submitting our assignment questions, we pre-write, then write, correct, then write, then correct, then write, and at last we come to the final draft. So this may be called a rehearsal of drafting, and at last we prepare a good, a fair assignment and we submit to IGNOU. Likewise, the students, they should be given the opportunity to write. Suppose we are providing question to the learners to come with an essay or some creative writing or like that. There are different activities in the school provided by the teacher to the learners. Here, the teachers should make them understand how to have pre-writing, how to make the final draft, like that. Teachers should encourage the students in this regard. The students, they prepare notebooks, they prepare their question answer, possible questions, whatever maybe the answers, they prepare in a book and show them to the teacher. The teacher may correct it and send it back to the learners. In this way, this goes on. So here we can see that writing process of the learner is developed. While writing essays, we see that the incorrect words is corrected by the teacher and asked to the students. The teacher asks the students to write correctly for 5 times or like that on the same paper. Here we see that this is the process to develop the writing capacity of the learner. There are ample of opportunities to be provided to the learner, but the thing is that the teacher has should have the interest to see, to verify the written activities of the learners and to provide feedback in this regard. Some purposes of writing. Here, the child is compelled to, or given the task of to think or to reflect, to inform whatever he has gained from biographies, autobiographies, newspapers, or from the library, or like that, or from any other media like TV or smartphones or YouTube, to persuade letter to the editor of a magazine advertisement, how to persuade through letters to do something or like that, or to request, to communicate through writing, to research through writing, to entertain through writing, to understand through writing, to develop or solve a problem, to develop the ability to solve a problem, to control through writing, to experience personal enjoyment. Suppose we have gone to excursion with our students, we can tell them to provide a write-up after coming back from the excursion party, so that they can describe their experience or a field trip, what they have experienced, what they have learned, how that was enjoyable, what are the negative points in organizing the program, everything. And they will be given ideas and they will be expressed in writing. So their writing abilities can develop. There are different activities to be provided for writing, so that their thought processing, and so also writing, so also they will give importance to develop their memory. Unless they remember everything, they can write. And so these opportunities should be given to the students. Also, teachers should see, teachers should take interest in this regard, to cause social action, to wonder, to thank, to express an emotion, to discover, to understanding, to collaborate with different agencies, different types of students, to question among the learners as also to the teacher through writing. All these are the aspects the learner can develop. This is the purpose of writing. Then brainstorming. Brainstorming is a process already we have described yesterday, and our beloved regional director sir has explained before you perfectly what is brainstorming, how it is given to the this problem is given to the learners to a group to describe in their own way to plan and think and organize in their own way. For this, the teacher should provide brainstorming activities while taking a class, even if while organizing different types of activities, while teaching different subjects, not only the language subject, but also in science, in history, in each and every subject, the teacher can have brainstorming questions, put brainstorming questions to the learners. Then use reliable resources of using reliable resources of learning. Except the case of narrative writing, some reliable sources of knowledge should be used to enrich the writer. There are many reliable resources on those we rely upon. That may not be misleading. That resources should be given important. The teacher should guide on that line. Then domain of a specific vocabulary, lexis, what is used by the attention, the words used by the learner should be given importance by the teacher. Then coherence and cohesion. The writing should be logically sequenced. There should be coherence, so also cohesion in writing. Suppose the learner is in the laboratory, science laboratory, it must the writing up whatever is doing in the library or laboratory or in other activities. When the learner is writing, particularly while in the science lab or project work, this learner must be aware of keeping coherence and cohesion. Then feedback. Feedback for writing can be up to 2 stages. Here, before writing, starting the writing, the learner should plan and be ready. Then, after writing, the learner may be given feedback so far as good writing is concerned. So, feedback here, we should see that it is the duty of the teacher, it is the activity of the teacher to provide feedback for better writing by the learners. And one thing we should see that the teacher must be impartial. He should not neglect any single student in the classroom. He should see that students develop a positive attitude to writing. Then negotiation with peers, teachers, or feedback and revision. There should be a negotiation with peers. The students, they have a peer groups. So also the teachers in general of each and every subject, then there should be negotiation. And where required, teachers of different subjects, other subjects, they should be invited for feedback and revision. Here we can see one thing that there may not be good relationship among the teachers in a school. This is not at all good for our schools, for our society. We should see that we have a better understanding for the development of the students. So we should be united in the school program. We should have a very good relations among ourselves. The students should feel that all the teachers they have a good relationship among themselves. Also, all the teachers they take care of themselves, the learners. Writing across the curriculum. Here, there are different types of writing, information transfer, and there are paragraphs and essays. There are reports like this. There are different types of writing. Here we see that in particularly in language subjects, we provide questions for essays, but essays can be given on science subjects topics. Essays can be given on, for example, suppose we give a question to write on environment pollution, or now we can give a question to corona, a process to the students to write an essay on corona in the world, like that. So whether it is a science subject or a art subject or a subject from commerce, that does not mean that language will be neglected. Language can be improved by taking care of students in different aspects of their thinking processes. We are a number of teachers, good number of teachers to teach different subjects, and we should see that essays and paragraphs are being written, and we should see that all the subjects are given importance. Reports must be brief, written in third person. Reports after the learner comes back from any activity, he provides a report. Suppose we ask the student, the learner, to write a report on his activity during this period, during this lockdown period. So he can provide a report in this manner. Avoid emotional overtones. Ideas are logically arranged, like that. So these are the salient features of a report. The teacher should provide opportunities, ample opportunities to write reports. So also use graphs and tables while writing reports. Then come to discuss teaching study skills. How, what are the skills associated with our studies? The students should be asked to take notes. Here we see that there is a library activity, there is a laboratory activity. There are different sorts of activities in the school program. So also there are activities in the ICT lab. The students get the opportunity to take notes in a library, so also in the ICT lab, so also in other places by asking different about different facts from his or her teacher. So here we see that the taking notes skill may be at school, maybe at home, but the teacher should guide. Teachers in general, all the teachers should guide how to write notes. Then forms of writing. The writing tasks being undertaken may be entertaining, may be informing, presenting one's point of view, or persuading. Already we have discussed in this regard. Descriptive writing. There are things to be described through writing, or expositing expository writing. There are different types of writing where this learner can provide the examples. What are the reasons to support a statement, defines his clarification, on definition, everything. So these sorts of writing are to be done by the students while teaching in different subjects. The writings must be maybe narrative, maybe persuasive, that to convince the reader, there must be persuasive writing. Disciplines based writing. Writing is different from disciplines. What are the discipline? There are different disciplines in the school academic programs. Writing in different disciplines means whether it is physics or it is economics or social studies or like that. The student should be encouraged to write on the definite topics of different subjects by the subject teacher, mathematics or science or geography or like that. So there are different subjects. The subject teachers, they should encourage the learners to give their write-ups. Writing to learn classroom. Free writers. Writing all the important points the child remembers from every day discussion or one day's discussion or like that. The free writes means here the learner is given the opportunity, is not guided at all. He writes whatever he feels himself, then feedback is given. Writing prompts, prompts the learner. There are following prompts helps the student to write up in the sense of purpose. There are questions, examples given here. Students write technical terms, predict and write 1 minute paper. They provide 1 minute paper that just reading assignment and in the laboratory or discussion, and they provide the write-up like that. One sentence summaries. This is also an activity provided by the teacher. The student has to answer in one sentence. So this is all regarding writing. Here we can conclude that writing is most important for the learner. It is the teacher, so also the parents. The parents, they have also a great responsibility to see how the learner is motivated, how the child is motivated to writing. Just listening and speaking is not enough. Writing ability, writing habit should be developed. What we see that student has gained much knowledge in the classroom. Students, they have received well whatever is taught in the classroom. They have studied, prepared well, but they are unable to write for 3 hours or 2 hours in their term examination, in their annual examination. So what happens? They fail to perform well in the examinations. So here we see that writing abilities should be developed by the teacher, and particularly here as teachers of different schools, we should see that the students of our schools, they should be able to write applications to different officials for different purposes. This should be trained by the teachers. Nowadays we see that after even passing higher classes, higher education, the learners they are unable. Most of the learners they are unable to write applications. What about essays? Applications, even they are unable to fill up forms in different areas, in different offices. In either neither their mother tongue, neither nor their second language, they are able to fill up the forms. So again, I can repeat here that the teachers, we should see that the learners, they develop writing abilities. We should correct, we should their writing write-ups, and we should provide feedback from their writing. So writing abilities can develop. The learners, they can fulfill the purpose of our education, and they can develop a good personality also. The last unit includes assessing language across the curriculum. Here we see that any activity must be pre-planned. Already we have discussed, and after the activity is over, we should see that how far it is successful, how far we have succeeded in performing the activities. Here we have discussed regarding 4 skills of learning: listening, then speaking, then reading, and at last writing. So these 4 skills are to be implemented in our schools. We should see how our learners in our schools, after this lockdown period, we come to our school and see our learners develop these skills, so that we can be good teachers, we can have perfection in our teaching, we can have self satisfaction, we can be good professionals. So here one thing we may discuss, that after the activities are taught to the learners, activities are undertaken by the teacher in the school, we should see how far these activities, any activity, any single activity or all the activities, how far we have proceeded, we have succeeded, and how far the learners, they have received learning in this regard. So here we can see that learners, here we can see that learners, they are assessed how far they have received language. You see that assessment is a synonym of examination. We have to examine the learners in each and every day, even in class, after teaching, after taking a period, we assess how far we have succeeded in providing learning. That is in the last step, that is evaluation step, or application step. We put some questions to the learners through our blackboard cloth, or through our overhead projector. That will be discussed promptly, neatly, in details in our workshop. So there we get a scope to discuss with our students how far they have received, they have learned, and how far the teacher has got success in teaching the learners. Likewise, there are different stages. At different steps, we examine our activities, we perform different activities. So also we have to assess at the end, we have to assess how far this is received or by the learners, or how far we have, in other words, we have been successful in providing the opportunity or performing the activity. There are two types of assessments. One is summative assessment and one is formative assessment. Formative assessment is conducted intermittently. That means we are going on teaching throughout the year. In the middle, suppose in each and every week, in every month, happily, there are different types of examinations that we test how far the students they have succeeded. These may be called as diagnostic tests. In the workshop, we shall discuss in detail how the teacher can be successful in preparing in preparing an assessment module or preparing the diagnostic test in that manner. We will be able to prepare questions, provide questions to assess different activities of our learners. So summative assessment is the assessment conducted at the end, whereas formative assessment includes feedback. We provide formative assessment to the learners to provide feedback, and the students they know where is the lacuna in their learning. So also we know where the lacuna or what is in their we fail, where we fail, or the students fail to learning in case of learning. But in summative assessment, at the end of the year, the learner is assessed to be provided with a grade, division or marks, and get a certificate and get a promotion to the next higher class. In our IGNOU program, we have term and examination where our grades and divisions are added. Particular grades are added. A, B, C, D, or that all we know regarding that. That is, term and examination is a summative, an example of a summative assessment. The purpose of these assessments is to assess the learner, improve teaching, and the purpose is not only to improve the learner but also improve ourselves in our activities, to renew the curriculum. Always we see that curriculum is being developed by assessing and getting feedback. There are different agencies to prepare curriculum like NCERT and other agencies. They prepare curriculum, develop curriculum through our assessments, develop non-cognitive capacities. Non-cognitive capacities are social intelligence, emotional intelligence. There are different other aspects of personality, human personality. Here we can see we have very shortage of time. So here the important points are to be discussed. It may take some few 2 or 3 minutes. Here we can see that most of the students they perform well in examinations, but few students they may not perform well in the examinations, but they have different abilities in co-curricular activities. Someone is playing well in football or playing games, or someone is adapting cricket or drawing, like that. So or singing. So we should see that non-cognitive capacities should also be given importance, so that each and every child can develop in the school program. What are the characteristics of a good assessment program? It must be objective based. It must be continuous. Assessment is a comprehensive process. That means a broad process. Assessment is a dynamic process. It is not a squeezed or a narrow process. It is dynamic in nature. assessing language across the curriculum. What to assess, content or language? Here, quality of our working is assessed. Determining the learning objectives. What are the learning objectives in each and every topic, in each and every subject through our curricular activities? So also our co-curricular activities, we develop the personality of the child. We see for the all-round development of the child. So here we should see that by these activities we can develop also the language of the learner. So we should see that assessments should be conducted through different subjects, not only in the case of language subjects, but also in case of different subjects, whether it is history, geography, science, or mathematics. For each subject, we should see that language is assessed, development of a language is assessed. So also there is a question of speaking ability tests, oral tests. Here we should see that there are oral or there are speaking tests, particularly in lower classes. This is given importance. In higher classes, we see that conversations, so also in debates, in workshops, in seminars, these skills are assessed. It is assessed by peer groups. So also it is assessed by the learner himself. What we have discussed, that is the responsibility of the teacher in the school. Assessing reading comprehension. This can be, there are different tasks of reading, writing books.
Dr. Das, you can wind up. You can wind up. It is already time. So just
wind up.
Please wind up.
Sir. The about to be closed. I am at the end of our discussion. So the teachers, they should provide the opportunities as for assessing students' writing, and at last we can see that there are rubrics, that is a sort of instructions where we can assess the different skills of a learner. Here we can give you an example. In IGNOU, we have already been provided a rubric to assess whatever is going on in the classroom by the teacher. So also we will be assessed by our students. There are rubrics for this purpose. At last, we can say that different types of activities are being conducted in school program, and it is the responsibility of the teacher to see the all-round development of the learner, and particularly language has an important role in the school program for the development of the learners, for their all-round development. We should see that language is properly developed, and all the teachers, both subject teachers and language teachers, they should take care and wholeheartedly they should plan their activities so that these 4 skills, reading, writing, so also speaking and listening skills, all develop in the school program. The school programs should be lively, and after completion of BD in IGNOU, we should take care of this aspect when we return to our schools. With this, we stop today's discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now it is time for interaction through the questions which are asked by our learners. So one question is by Bijan Bihari Das. He is asking what are the differences between critical listening and passive listening.
Sir, here let me answer these questions. There is a difference between critical listening and passive listening. Here we see that we can take one example. We have now 43 listeners at different places. They are listening to me and they are listening to your program. Critical listeners are those who have the intention to put questions, listen properly, and where they have to ask critical questions. But passive listeners, they are just listening. They think that in the evening or tomorrow this will be uploaded in YouTube. We shall listen. So just they are engaged in some other. Just I am giving this example, but that is not happening. Our students, our learners are very much active in learning. We can take another example. Passive listeners, when we are in normal situation setup, we may be passive. When we are doing homeworks or we are engaged in other activities, we may be passive listeners. We are not giving importance.
Yeah, simply speaking, when the listener or when
Sir,
the student is not responding, isn't
sir,
it? Keeping quiet and simply listening, that is passive listening.
sir,
Normally, as a teacher, we have to encourage active listening or active participation.
sir,
Once the learner becomes active, too many things will go on inside his mind, isn't it?
sir,
So that is critical listening.
sir,
If somebody is listening actively, that means he is analyzing things, he is synthesizing things, he's relating the particular subject
things,
which is being taught, what he's listening
other subjects.
with some other things. So all these mental processes go on. So that is critical listening. And
Sir,
passive listening is not going to benefit the learners, isn't it?
sir,
You may,
sir,
that will enter in 1 year and that will just go out, of the another year, go out of another year. So passive listening, we must not have to promote. What we are supposed to do is to promote active listening or critical listening.
Sir, here we can see that the purpose of discussing this topic in IGNU B.Ed program is that teachers should see that they will be prepared. They will prepare their lesson plans, their activities in so nice manner that students become active listeners, not passive listeners.
Okay. Okay. Then there is another question: how assessment is a dynamic process? Vijan Bihari Das is asking this question.
Yes, sir. Sir, assessment is a dynamic process. That means it is an active process and changeable process. It is not a passive process. While assessing the skills, we have to see what are the present situation, and it may lead to changes. The assessment may change from time to time according to the necessity.
You see, Mr. Bijan, as a teacher, you must have understood that while assessing the performance of the student, you do not follow a single or straight-jacketed principle or rule or method. Sometimes orally you assess by asking questions. Sometimes you give some questionnaire and you assess the performance. Sometimes you observe the activity of the student and you assess his or her performance. So this assessment is a dynamic process. That means a series of activities are there for assessment, and keeping in view the time and situation or place, you adopt a particular method or this thing and assess the performance. Therefore, assessment is always dynamic.
Sir, here we can say that it is the important process and it is not of a monotonous type or it is not, it never includes any single aspect.
So Bijan is again asking what is the
Sir,
difference between gentle inquisition and grand conversation.
Gentle, yes, sir. There is a difference between gentle inquisition and grand
Conversation.
conversation. Conversation, it's a conversation. We see that we inquisite some qualities. Here, we listen, the listener, the student behind us sitting in the class is inquisiting some behaviors, some skills. Here we say, but in grand conversation, all the learners they participate in the conversation that is going on between the teacher and the learner. And gentle inquisition includes simply listening and inquisiting whatever is taught.
So this is a very nice question. You see, normally in the teaching learning situation,
Sir,
we have to instill inquisitiveness among the learners. If the learner
sir,
is inquisitive, then then automatically the teacher will get encouraged to teach more and more, isn't it? So inquisition is something which is very important, and grand conversation is conversation. That means general type of conversation involving every learner or every stakeholder. I meant to say every stakeholder in the teaching learning situation.
sir. Sir, generally what happens in our schools, particularly primary schools up to senior secondary schools, the learners are very much inquisitive in nature. And particularly in primary schools, these learners are very much inquisitive in nature, but the teachers should have interest to satisfy their inquisitiveness. If the students, the learners, they are neglected, then they if neglected, they are not showing that inquisitiveness. There is a loss for our class, for our state, for our nation.
Okay. Gauri Shankar Tripathi is asking,
Sir,
uh, primary level and secondary level, which reading is best for the students?
primary
In
level and
primary
secondary
level and
level,
secondary level,
reading is the best.
what type of reading is suitable for the students?
Particularly from primary level, reading habits should be developed. One example we can say, nowadays students they differ from reading newspapers, news magazines. Even if primary schools they have libraries, but library activities are not going on in schools. At our homes, we persuade the learner to perform activities related to academic activities like mathematics, science, or like that. But we never say our children at homes to go through the magazines or newspapers. So here the answer may be primary education is very much important for reading, writing both.
Yes, actually, I would like to add to it, dear Gauri Shankar, you must be knowing that normally when we teach the students, in the process of teaching, we try to encourage two types of reading, loud reading and silent reading. Isn't it? In the primary level, you see, in order to develop fluency or in order to correct the inappropriate spelling, etc., loud reading is required, isn't it? Loud reading. Sometimes young children are asked by the teacher to read a paragraph, loudly, so that all other peer group member will listen to the style of reading and accordingly try to bring out some remedial measures or some corrections. Similarly, in the higher level, as the child grows up, silent reading is required because when complex things are being read, it is not the loud reading which is going to help. It is only the silent reading. So it all depends on the type and situation. In the secondary level onwards, you should try to encourage the learners on silent reading rather than loud reading. Okay. So there is another question. In the process of writing two steps like correction and editing. What's the difference between them?
Sir, the answer maybe in the process for writing, there are two steps. The teacher corrects the answer of the learner, whatever is written by the learner. Where there is difficulties, there are some mistakes that to be corrected. But editing is different from correction. Editing here, it is more minute. It is done more minutely, and particularly suppose in our questions we have asked the learner to describe or answer within 500 words or 200 words or like that. There are different types of questions, short question or long question. Editing here, and this we cut off whatever is unnecessary, irrelevant, that is irrelevant, not related to our answer. After editing, there will be final answer.
Okay. Then Suramya Panda is asking what is the difference between scanning and skimming.
Already we have discussed that scanning means to read minutely before the examination, before the term examination, before submitting our assessment to IGNU. We have scanned, we have gone minutely, but when reading newspapers, we just skim, we just see what is the topic, what is the main idea, what is gist. When we are searching for the gist, we just skim, but we scan where minute reading is concerned.
Okay. I think all the questions which were there in the chat box have been answered.
Sir, sir.
If there is any question, our students are requested to come online and ask straight away. If there is
Sir, namaste.
Namaskar.
Sir, I want to ask a question that what are the criteria for assessing a report?
Assessing a report.
Yes, sir. What are the criteria for assessing a report?
Even there are many types of reports. What kind of report you are referring to?
Now, my question is for normal report, what are the criteria?
Okay. Dr. Das, please respond to it.
Already we have discussed this question that particularly library activities we prepare a report. After coming back from our excursion or picnic or field trip, we prepare a report. We have given examples like this, that after our school is open, after this lockdown period, we will ask the students to give a report of what you have done during this period. Reports are the task given to the students to describe the criteria, mainly the criteria. It should be informal, information giving, and it should be sequential. What is done, then what is done, like that, and it should be factual. Not the learner should include whatever is irrelevant, and it should be readable before all the learners.
Okay. Dear student, you see, normally, there are two types of reports. One report is a general type of report when we are preparing, and the second is a research report. In case of research report, what are required to be assessed is every component of the research report is to be assessed. That means your objectives, your introduction, objectives, then the plan, procedure, selection of sample, everything, analysis and interpretation, everything is to be assessed bit by bit. In case of general report, what is required is you have to, as Dr. Das has said, the logical sequence of the different concepts, arranging of different concepts in a sequential manner, that is to be seen. First of all, your introduction, whether the introduction has been given properly or not. Then you will assess what the body of the report, whether in the body all the important contents have been covered or not covered. That is to be assessed, and towards the end you have to see the conclusion. That means whether the report has been properly concluded or not concluded. So in three phases you have to assess, and accordingly you put whatever grade you want to give or mark or whatever mark you want to give, isn't it? So that way normally projects are assessed, and as a teacher you have to master this skill. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much.
Here one thing to be added, sir.
Okay.
Teachers should train the learners to provide the reports, and they should not include biased opinion in the
Yes,
reports.
yes, yes. Of course, of course. You see, reports should be based on facts, isn't it?
Okay,
If
sir.
it is not factual, if factual information is not provided in the report, if it is borrowed or some misleading informations have been given, so that is to be discarded immediately, and assessment should be done accordingly. Okay. So meticulously the teacher has to see whether proper facts are given or not, whether whatever Dr. Das has said, all these things are there or not, or else the report will lead to, because what is the report after all? Report is nothing but presentation of some facts. If it is not factual, if it is misleading, it will have severe consequences, isn't it? So we have to be very careful about it.
Sir, my another question is, what is creative listening?
It is already
Creative
replied.
listening.
It is already replied by Dr. Das. It is already replied. Huh? Creative listening, passive listening, creative listening. Dr. Das, can you answer to this?
Already, sir, answered this question. Again, I am saying that creative listening means the listener is very much active, and he analyzes the facts, whatever is told by the teacher. But passive listening means just listening and not sincerely listening. The listener is just listening haphazardly. Example we have given, and that example may be now there are 32 student learners here listening this program. Those who have gone away, they are passive listeners. They see
Sir,
now.
this is critical listening, but my question is creative listening.
I'm just asking. I'm just replying to this
Okay,
particular
okay.
question. You see, dear student,
Yes, sir.
listening which really appeals to the creativity in bringing out solution to the problem.
Yes, sir.
That kind of listening which compels a person to apply his own creativity in finding out the possible solution to a problem is nothing but creative listening, isn't it? So that way you can take it up or understand the fact. Okay. So,
Yes.
all these things are presented nicely in your study material. So you can go through it, and during workshop also you can have elaborate discussion with your peer group or with other councils. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So is there anything else, dear students, you can put up? Otherwise, we will conclude.
Sir, hello.
Yes.
Sir, what is KWL chart?
K-
KWL chart.
KWL. Dr. Das, can you
Sir,
respond?
sir. Already we have discussed that what the student knows about the topic, what the student wants to know, and L means what the student has learned after reading the lesson topic. That means what is the output, what is the input given, and that means what is the previous knowledge that already the learner knows, and what is the output after reading as a topic. This can be provided in a chart.
Very simple. I think it must have been clear to the student what the student knows, what the student wants to learn, and what the students has already learned, isn't it? KWL. So, they are presented in your study material in chart form. Please go through
Yes,
it
sir.
and understand.
Sir, here we can conclude that the learner should be encouraged for creative thinking and creative writing.
Yes. Okay.
This is the purpose of our education.
Yes. So if there is no other question, it is time to conclude. It is
Hello.
already. Yes. Yes. Please.
Hello.
Please ask your
Sir,
question.
good. My question is, what is the rubrics and what are included in it?
Rubrics. Dr. Das, please respond.
Sir, this has already been discussed. Example is given that in IGNO B.Ed program, we have given the learners a rubric that in the classroom they should provide it to the teacher. They are under a teacher in the school, headmaster and another teacher, subject teacher. So he will give marks in different aspects of teaching. That is a 5-point scale marking rubric. Whether, for instance, whether teaching aid is used, yes, no, or like that. Whether the learner has asked questions, what type of questions asked, like that. Here, rubrics in reading, writing, in each and every skill, developing each and every skill, rubrics may be used. Here, in the topic provided in the text material,
What is
there is
it
a
called in
rubric.
ODIA? Dr. Das, what is it called in ODIA? Rubrics is a model or is a chart or what?
No, sir, it is not a model. It is a set of questions.
That's
କେତେଗୋଟେ
what,
ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ଥିବ,
that should be
ସେଗୁଡାକୁ ଜଣା
explained in
ପଡିବ.
that way. Actually, our answer should be in that way. It is a model which contains, all these elements that you have spoken, isn't it?
Sir, it is described in our SIM also regarding knowledge of writing, conversation, communications, ideas, then writing organization skills. Like different aspects are given. Score is to be awarded by the learner.
Okay. So it is already 4:25 and time for concluding the present session. So, dear students, you must have fully understood, these 5 important elements which are nicely presented in block 2 of your BES-124. Your reading skill, then writing skill, listening skills, then your assessing skill, etc. Uh, these all these 5 important elements are very important in our teaching learning situation. And when we are talking about language across the curriculum, we have to be very clear about the different aspects of these 5 skills. Otherwise, whatever we do inside the classroom as a teacher will not be fruitful, will not be acceptable by the learners, or our learners will not benefit much from our teaching. So we have to encourage every learner to be a active listener. We have to develop in them speaking skills, style of speaking. You see, there are many talented students or talented learners, but they lack speaking ability. So they will not be able to present themselves what they know. Our duty is to develop this speaking ability so that their hidden talent can be exposure of latent power or innate ability. So that is very important. And at the same time, assessment. You see, assessment is very important, and it is an integral part of the teaching learning system. We normally assessment is a synonymous term to examination, then examination, assessment, evaluation, and so on and so forth. It is a very critical term. Is a lot of activities are involved in our assessment. Because when we assess, we do a whole lot of things or series of activities. And if we have proper assessment skills, then we'll be able to judge the ability or performance level of the students in a much better way. You see, already it is spoken that individual difference is bound to exist. All the 40 children who are there in the class are not equal. Their abilities are not equal. They differ in many respects. And we are providing equal kind of teaching to the students. So our purpose is to find out whether our teaching is acceptable to all the learners or is beneficial to all the learners or not. So how do you know? Through assessment, isn't it? Through assessment. And accordingly, you try to give them adequate treatment for their development. So assessment skill is very important. And please, uh, you know, whatever methods or procedures or rules and regulations have been given by the experts in education, in the books, etc., they are in one way. But as a teacher, you have to devise your own mechanism in assessing the performance of the student, isn't it? Perhaps that will help you a lot in bringing out all-round development in the children. So this is all I should speak at the moment. So let me thank all the learners who have participated actively, because there was a lot of deliberations about passive listener and active listener. So it clearly shows that our learners have become active listeners. They have listened very actively by putting questions, by asking questions and by writing questions to their chat box. So they are really active listeners. And our counselor, Dr. Das, has also very nicely presented different aspects that are there in the
Thank you, sir.
block, block 2 of our BES-124. There are only 2 sessions prescribed for BES-124, because BES-124 is a 2 credit course. And since this is not a teaching class, we simply touched upon the important aspects, and we try to, hammer on the problems faced by the learners. So that is precisely what is done today in this particular class. So tomorrow we shall be meeting with, yes, we shall be meeting with a new counselor with a new course, that is BES-124. Sorry, 125. I'm sorry, BES-125, and that is what is that? What is the name of that course? Understanding disciplines and subjects. Understanding disciplines and subjects. So till such time, I thank you very much. I thank our counselor, because tomorrow also Dr. Das will be presenting on BES-125 to Group A students. So till such
Thank you, sir.
time, I take leave of you and thank you very much. We shall be joining tomorrow exactly 10 a.m. 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Of course, two groups. First group will meet at 10 a.m. and the second group will meet at exactly 2 p.m. So thank you very much. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks to all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, both of you, sir.